Hey guys, we are back again for another edition of the Truman Lake Fishing Intel Expert Roundtable. It is October 2022. We've got a great crew of guys tonight. Darren Langford, Richard Bowling, Jordan Lear, Dylan Stocking, and Hunter Bowling. They've been fishing the lake like crazy. Have a lot of good updates for you. We're going to get into crappie, bass, catfish, all the good stuff. Talk about some of the greater fishing topics that are going on nationwide with some scandalous happenings in the walleye world and all kinds of cool stuff. Before we get into that, as we always like to do at the beginning of these videos, I want to say thank you to a couple of folks that help make these possible. First and foremost, Nini's Italian Steakhouse and Catering. They went all out for us tonight. We had steaks and green beans and potatoes. It was really awesome. Nini's is located down in Warsaw, Missouri. They have a deal for members where if you go in there and you are a member of the website, you show them your membership and get a free appetizer. Their catering is really great. They do events within several hours all around the Truman Lake area as far up as Kansas City. Lots of great options, and they can get you hooked up there. So be sure to call her, Gina, down at Nini's, and she'll be able to get you a bid on whatever it is, whether it's holiday party, company party, whatever. She can get you hooked up. So be sure to check out Nini's Italian Steakhouse and Catering. And then we also want to thank Anglers Port Marine as well, located on 7 Highway between Clinton and Warsaw, Missouri. Your go-to dealership for Phoenix, Camus, and low boat lines. They just announced here in the last 2 months, if you haven't heard already, they are doing a Anglers Port payout in the Anglers in Action tournament series. If you are running a Phoenix boat, I believe, that's 2 years or newer, purchased from Anglers Port Marine, they're going to match the first place prize if you win in one of their boats. So it's already a $10,000 prize. They're going to kick in an extra $10,000 for you. And then if you're part of the Phoenix First Flight program, that's another, I think, $7,000. So if you win an Anglers in Action event, you're looking at a $27,000 payout. So really cool that Anglers Port Marine is doing that and chipping in for the anglers to make it worth your while to fish these tournaments. So that's really great. Be sure to check them out. 7 Highway. They're all over our website. Banner ads. You can click that and it will take you right to their website. But with that, we are mid-October. The fishing has been getting better and better. Water temperature is dropping. Lake conditions, it's been kind of turning over, but that seems to be is that kind of wrapping up? Are you guys seeing that around the lake? Or are you still seeing some evidence of the turnover going on in the upper ends? It was kind of scummy on the Pommy last week, mid-Pommy still. But what are we seeing on water temperature? We haven't touched 50 yet, have we?
62, 63.
So
60s.
Low 60s, lower end's probably a little bit behind that. They're probably still mid 60s from what we've been hearing. Jordan, what have you been seeing down the lower end?
Yeah, 66 to 68.
Okay, yeah. So let's get into some actual fishing, what it's been like, where we're heading, what you need to be focusing on here over the coming month of October and into November. Richard, you've been out every day.
Every day.
How are things changing? What's the pattern been like for you recently? How do you foresee it changing or getting better? All that.
I don't think it's going to get better. It's good right now. We've been, even before we left and went to the Nationals 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whatever, I was catching these fish on channel ledges, which they shouldn't be there this time of year. They should be way up in these ditches like I preach all the time. They're not there. They're in that deeper water, right on the drop-offs and up on it just a little bit, or even out in the channel. Today we caught every fish in the middle of the channel way up to Grand.
Really?
They're going to sit there for a little while longer, and the water's going to cool down a little more, and they're going to pile into these creeks. But these fish that I'm fishing now, they're going to be there for another 2 or 3 weeks probably.
Really? So that's really interesting because it was just last week when I know we did a fishing report where you didn't catch fish in the channel. Were you really looking for them though in the channel that day?
No, I was looking on the ledges of
Okay.
it, on the ledges of it up in the timber, and a lot of fish on them timber. I mean, you can have just a straight up tree, and there'll be 6, 8, 9 fish just right in a row. And if you fish it right, you can catch 5 or 6 of them fish. And now then with the wind today, I got out in the channel and roamed around, not a tree around, and caught well, they caught 45 crappie out there, or we did.
Yeah, all good keepers.
All good keepers, yep. Way up to Grand, up past Otter Creek, just picked the bluff out of the wind and pretty good.
Yeah. Now, when you say deeper water, what are we talking? Are we talking 20, 25 feet? Are we talking 10 feet?
No, 12 foot out to 20 foot.
Okay.
You can't hardly find more water than that up there.
Mm-hmm.
20 foot's a lot of water up there. The fish are going to be down about 10, 11, 12 feet. And you're going to see one in your live scope where you're trying to catch it. There's going to be one past it.
Yeah.
There's that many fish out in the channel right now.
Is the, and it's still on minnows. Is that still the ticket?
You can catch them on a jig, but man, it's hard to beat a little old dead minnow.
Yeah.
And I'm stunning my minnows, killing them, and I don't want that minnow moving at all. Put it right in their face, and they're going to eat it.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, because I was out on the weekend. I watched Richard fish and keep catching fish. I was throwing jigs with some buddies, and we couldn't get them to really even look at a jig. So
You got to dead. What I've learned, you got to dead stick it if you're using a minnow or a jig. You got to put it in front of them, not jig it, just leave it setting, get their attention, maybe pull it away a little.
mm-hmm.
I got that big shield on my live scope, but I don't call it a shield. It's my donking machine.
Mhm.
I take that minnow and donk it, and they don't swim. You just put it in front of that fish and they eat it.
Yeah. Yep. I've been in the boat with Richard a few times where I've had to.
Can't donk them too.
I've had to donk him a few times and it doesn't quite do the job. You feel like you're torturing the poor little minnow, but it does work.
Does work. I've used dead minnows for years, and people used to laugh at me, but they don't get you hung up as much, and fish will eat the dead minnow. Small fish will eat it, big fish will eat it.
Mhm.
So I donk them all.
Yeah. Hunter, you were fishing the Truman Lake Tournament Series this past weekend, which is not like a giant thing of boats by any means, but it's like the who's who of Truman Lake. And that's a jig only tournament. Tell me a little bit about your experience, because did you practice a little bit ahead of
I
the...
practiced 3 days that week before.
Okay.
And, man, I never found the fish all week. I never did. And I worked my tail off trying to find them. And like Dad was saying, the fish should be in the ditches right now out there, and they are not there. I started fishing the same type of stuff he was fishing. And I kind of fishing like the mouths of the creeks as well. And everybody else that I talked to is like, we found them through the week, but they never caught them. They just stumbled on them the next day or in the tournament. We never seen the big crappie.
Yeah.
Never did. The fish that we caught, we weighed it, which is very aggravating to us. But where the people that wanted that, and the guy that took second, they're fishing a spot of lake that I've never seen fish before, and especially this time of year, you wouldn't think they should be there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just fishing different right now.
So when you say they shouldn't have been there, was that like a deep spot? Like what kind of area, if you were to describe it, why shouldn't, I mean, what's it like? Why shouldn't they be
They
there?
were like Dad said, like in the middle of a channel.
Yeah.
And it's part of a channel like no one ever really, I guess, pays attention to, which I guess they just, figure that out.
Yeah.
And they fished out there and they spanked our butts pretty bad.
Yeah.
We were sitting in third after the first day, and then the second day we got blown out of the water by the guys that are behind us. So
Yeah.
just didn't work out, but I know we got another one this next weekend, and I'm hoping the fish will finally move them ditches, but I don't know if they will or not.
Yeah.
They should be there by now.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm just going to take Dad's advice and fish some channel swings and fish the deep water, but I don't want to. You go to the normal spots where they should be at, and they're just not there.
Yeah.
It's very aggravating. But the fish pit that we did drop on,
Yeah.
we didn't have a problem with that at all. I used a 32nd ounce white hair jig, and I'm going to say, out of all the fish we dropped on, I'm going to say 2 big fish didn't bite over the weekend.
Interesting. Maybe I should have been throwing hair jigs. We were throwing plastics. I don't know. I don't know if that comes into play. Does that make a difference
Oh, yeah,
sometimes?
it
Is the
can.
plastics versus the hair jigs?
You can.
And I guess, how do you make that determination? You're just like, oh, they're not hitting the plastics. Let's try a hair jig.
Try some.
There's no really rhyme or reason.
Not much to put in.
I think a lot of it's confidence is what you have
Yeah.
to make, honestly.
Yeah.
I really do.
When we fished together, that fish bowl
Mm-hmm.
before. And each one of us caught just as many as the other one.
Yeah.
Did you try different colors, different sizes?
Yeah.
You just,
Like,
just stuck with
we
the same
threw
one
some
all day.
big ones. We threw
Not
some
mine.
big ones. We threw some the Bobby Garland little ones. We were using quarter ounce heads the whole time to get it down because we didn't have any weights
That's
to
probably part of your problem.
Yeah.
You're in a $40,000 boat. You didn't have no
Yeah,
weight.
no weights. I had to give him minutes.
Hey, man,
You should have said you needed some
it
weights.
wasn't any of my wasn't I was along for the ride with
That's
my
how you
buddies.
win and catch fish with weight.
Yeah, yeah,
You got to have big weights too.
yeah. That's right.
Shove down in there.
Thankfully, well, we were watching Richard on Saturday, and my buddies and I. My buddies were really wanting to just follow up Richard, and I was like, "We're not doing that." And so
Don't
we,
go behind Richard.
right, right. That's what I said. I said he's picked them all out for one, and two, we're just not going to do that. And we went up the lake, and thankfully we found Dylan in another pocket, just
Just hunting us down.
Yeah.
Just looking
Just-
for us.
I actually got a call on the phone, and the guys you was with told me that you wanted to come.
yeah, yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
No, and it just so happened, there was someone out on the main channel that I thought was you, and I said, "Hey, Dylan," and they just kind of looked over and didn't say anything. And so I was like, "Oh, okay, I guess he's in a bad mood today." It was not Dylan. Because then we pulled in, and there he was. And thankfully, Dylan had some minnows left over, and that certainly helped. We caught 3 or 4 real quick with the minnows. But we did notice, because we got into a pocket, I guess that's what you would call that, a cove
It's
pocket.
a little creek.
And a lot of the fish were near the bottom, foot,
Yeah.
and 10 to 15 feet of water, right that bottom 2 feet, or right.
It'd be about 2 foot off the bottom.
Yeah. Yep.
A lot of them right now, if I get up on that shelf and get up in 10 foot of water, when I leave at 12, 14 foot, them are off the bottom, but in 10 foot, their bellies will be almost touching the bottom.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And sometimes you can follow them even in that 12 foot or deeper. Sometimes you'll see them. They'll just keep going down. You can just see that little hump there. You can catch them right off the bottom.
Yeah. We did notice there was a lot of steak beds in that particular pocket.
There's a bunch.
But what was interesting, did you catch many out of steak beds? Because I didn't see much.
There wasn't a whole lot of fish in the steak beds.
Yeah.
And the ones that are down, it seems like they get so tight in that brush right now in them steak beds that it's hard to get them out of
They're
there.
hard to catch out.
They're hard to catch. A lot of times if I see on a trip, if I see fish down in a brush pile or a steak bed, I just keep going.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard to get that bait down there close as
And
they
you can't
want
see
it.
what's going on.
Yeah.
Because they want it right on their nose and held still, and it's by the time we mess with that fish down there in the steak bed, we could then caught 5
Yeah.
off of
Right.
stuck to a tree. Like
Even
that.
on the timber, their noses are stuck
Mhm.
to the tree. You almost got to hit that fish
Yeah.
to get them to. Once they look and see it, they're going to eat it.
Yeah.
But it takes a little bit. I mean, a lot of the trees are angled, coming up out of the water, and the fish will be under here.
Yeah.
So when they're underneath that big fat tree and you can't get right on them,
Yeah.
you gotta finally get their attention.
Yeah. How would you guys describe, for folks that have a live scope, or maybe they only have 2D sonar, how would you describe what that steak bed looks like on the graph?
Looks like a bunch of sticks coming up off the
Yeah,
bottom.
Comb turned sideways.
Yeah.
Or brush.
Yeah.
There's just stakes.
It's a bunch
Yep.
of one bite is what it is, just sticking up off of a
Yep.
pallet bed is what
Yep.
it's called.
Yeah.
A lot of times you'll see them like you're looking around, you'll see a tree that looks different on the lake. A lot of times there's beds around it.
If you get from Hay Creek up on Truman Lake and you see a tree by
Tall tree.
itself, tall tree or a big tree with a limb
It
sticking
looks
out,
different.
there's a steak bed on that stuff. I mean, that limb a lot of times is pointing to where it's at.
And is that just because it's a good marker, or is there something about that tree that makes it
Well,
good?
Good
People
marker.
just remember, like the water comes up. If it's taller tree, that tree's there, that
Yeah.
brush pile's there. Because you know what? Before, they didn't have live scope. Well, there's that brush pile right there. Just a mind thing.
A lot of them would go up to that big tree with that big limb, and that tree's been noted for catching big crappie on it. So everybody comes in there and hits that.
Mm-hmm.
But with their little bed out here, so them guys hit this and they push them fish off of that end of that bed. So they run they're in a tournament. They don't fish that tree, before live scope. They'd dink around in their bed and run to their next bed. They didn't even mess with that tree. The tree's been hit by all the locals and all the fishing guides or whatever before. Now then you can't hide nothing.
Yeah.
And there's not as many beds going in now either.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah. It's pretty. I mean, when you do see it on live scope for the first time, it's pretty unmistakable when
It
you
is.
find it.
And if you pull up to a steak bed and you can see all them fish in the bottom of it, you're not going to catch them as good. When they're sitting up on top of that steak bed, you're going to catch them. They're up there to eat.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
Yep.
How? So we're mid-October. Water temperature still in the low 60s. You said you expect them to kind of be doing the same thing for the next few weeks, and then they're going to push back in the creeks and don't really spend much time on the main lake. You need to get in the creeks, whether it's on the Grand Arm,
Or
on
any-
Tebow,
yeah.
Osage.
Tebow's going to be really good.
Yeah.
That clear water, but the size isn't going to be as good. But the Grand Arms where I'll stay, and Otter Creek, Hay Creek, Pretty Bob. It's got to have a little water. Got to have some water in it. Got to have a defined ditch in it, and that's where they're going to head to, and they're going to stay there until it starts getting really cold.
Yeah. Does it matter how deep the creek is? As you get lower in, a little bit deeper water.
Yeah, you're going to want, or I think you're going to want 7, 8, 9 feet at least. If you get into that and then turn around and come out. I know several duck seasons there, Sparrowfoot Creek, all them stake bed stuff out there, duck hunters in their boat and crappie fishing out in front. So
It probably didn't
it's
help.
gonna happen.
Probably didn't help the duck hunting much.
No, but the fishing was good.
Have you guys been hearing much on any of the other arms of the lake as far as how crappie fishing is currently? Was there any teams that were competing in the Osage?
So everybody, I know, like 4 or 5 boats. They fished all week long trying to find the crappie, and they fished the Osage and the Grand, and everyone ended up on the Grand.
Yeah,
And they still were struggling on the Grand, but it's better than the Osage. As far as big fish wise.
yeah,
The guys I've talked to from the Osage said the fish are down about 17, 18 feet. Same deal, bluffs and deeper banks, but not seeing as many fish.
yeah.
As far as the Tebow, the Tebow's got to be good, but I haven't heard nothing from there.
Will we see the schools start to stack up a little bit more in November, December, where you're seeing larger schools of fish together? I mean, I know in February we were on house-sized schools of crappie.
Down the lake you will, up the lake you'll never see that.
Yeah,
Not dirtier water, but you get down Long Show, Tebow, Pawnee, all that, you will see big schools, and you will right now if you go down there.
yeah. Okay.
It's gonna be a bunch of little fish.
Yeah. Will you use minnows continually, or is there a point in time that you'll switch to jigs?
That water gets down to 55, 56. They'll start eating that jig better than they will a minnow for me.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll eat a minnow all year, but when you don't have to put your hand in that bucket.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you there. Well, good to know. Well, that's a lot of really good crappie information, and it's limits being caught every day. There was a ton of boats in the Grand on Saturday, just between Otter Creek down to Bucksaw. There was a ton. I don't know if that'll start to dwindle here as we get into colder weather. Deer season coming up, so. But moral of the story was today, rainy and nasty. I drove all the way down to Warsaw. I didn't see a single boat crossing the bridges.
We never seen a boat run all the way up past Otter Creek. Never seen a boat going up. I was the only trailer in the lot. Came back and I met 2 boats later today. It
Yeah.
got nicer.
Yeah.
But the fish bit good. Just getting out of that wind.
Yeah. Well, Jordan, you are more so targeting the catfish.
Yep.
What's the story on the catfish, and what do you expect to be happening here as we progress through October? Fill us in what you've been doing, general. You've been down the lower end mostly.
Yeah. Down there right now, they're setting up about 25 to 35 foot.
Oh wow, okay.
Pretty deep. You get up around Sparrowfoot, I mean, you're in foot,
Yeah.
foot of water right
Yeah.
now. I've seen 63 degrees up around Sparrowfoot.
Yeah.
Down Osage Bluff, I've been fishing down there quite a bit.
Yeah.
Pretty much got to cover a lot of water down there right now to catch some good numbers of them.
Are you anchoring? Are you drifting?
Drifting and dragging baits.
Yeah. What, as far as catching shad, what's the process there? Are you finding shad? Like if you launch at Shawnee Bend, can you go out and catch some right out there in front of the ramp? Do you have to travel around a lot to find them?
They're pretty much around every ramp right now.
Yeah.
You can catch them shallow in the backs of
Yeah.
pockets.
Are you having to work real hard to find the right size of what you want? Or are you seen a lot of the little 3-inchers?
Little ones are plentiful, but
Yeah.
the bigger ones are a little tougher to find.
And which ones do you like? Do you like getting the bigger ones and being able to flay those up into chunks, or what's your method here?
Yeah, I like the bigger ones. They stay on the hook a lot better.
Yeah.
You get a little fish messing with them smaller shad, they'll pull them off of there.
Yeah. So you say you're drifting 25 to 35 feet of water. You're on the lower end. I mean, you could be lower Osage, Pawnee, those types of areas. Is there particular stuff underwater like the actual terrain? Are you on a ledge? Are you on a flat? What are you looking for? Like, I know you're using your grab to try to find the fish, but where are you seeing those fish set up on that kind of stuff?
They're pretty much scattered across all the deeper flats right now. I've looked in the creek around the main channel and up on the creek ledges and stuff. There's a few fish starting to move back in there, but they're kind of staged up out on the main lake right now.
Yeah. And will they move back into the creeks like the crappie will? And
Yeah.
when will that kind of take place?
Seems like down on the lower end, you get around 60 degrees, they'll start moving back in the creeks quite a bit.
And do you go, I mean, you go way back in the creeks, or it's just...
Oh, right now, you'll start to mouth. And
Yeah.
say a couple weeks, they'll be about halfway back.
Okay. So, and it's been, I mean, you're catching a fair amount on a trip, but it's a
Yeah.
lot of eater type of fish.
Yeah, a few slots down there.
Yeah.
I did have a couple overs down there this week. Pretty deep water,
Yeah.
about 33 foot.
And it seems like because Jeff fishes in the upper ends quite a bit, and he's catching not as many eaters, but getting a fair number of slots and big fish. What I'm kind of curious what your guys' thoughts are. Like, why is that? Why are there a bunch of eaters down in the lower end and not as and bigger fish in the upper ends?
I'm not sure about that.
Kind
See-
of like the crappie though too, right? I mean,
Yeah.
way, you know.
Yeah, that's where all the nutrients and everything come in. But there's as many bait fish down the lake as there is up the lake,
Mhm.
and probably less catfish pressure down the lake
Yeah.
than there is up there.
Yeah.
But it always produces them bigger fish up north or on the west side.
Yeah.
I think the main thing on the lower end is them fish suspend pretty deep most of the year, so they're a lot tougher to catch if you're throwing your baits on the bottom.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
gotta suspend them and stuff. So a lot of people overlook the suspended fish.
Yeah. Yeah. When the fish moved back in the creeks, we had a member ask about some bank fishing spots for crappie, which we'll talk about in a sec. But is that something? Is it feasible to bank fish for catfish as we get further into the winter in some of these areas and some of these creeks?
Yeah.
Some of the access probably might be tough if you don't have a boat, but
Yeah, some of the accesses are pretty good, especially with the lake being low.
Yeah.
You can walk down along the banks and pretty open right now.
But if someone's going to do that, that will take place, will get better for them in a few weeks' time as the water temperatures.
The colder it gets.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of places up around Sparrowfoot, Old Roads, and
Trussell.
Trestle, everything. There's a lot of places you can walk in up there, and if the wind's crashing in on the bank
Mm-hmm.
and you got some fresh shad, you're going to catch or catfish.
Yeah.
You know.
The member that wrote in was talking about how he was trying to find and learn more about some access spots from the bank to catch crappie. What are some of your guys' suggestions for folks that maybe they don't want to take the boat out and they just want to go sit on the bank and try to catch crappie? Is there particular areas of the lake that lend themselves better for doing that than others?
Barefoot Corey's about the one I'd say.
That's the best one for all winter long. It's a little bit of a walk. It's less than a quarter of a mile, but it's an old rock quarry, and there's a bunch of brush in there. The water's probably 40 foot deep in it, and then the crappie pile in there. They're in there right now.
Mm.
So it's a very good place to walk in. It's good walking all the way around it. You can catch them under a cork. You can catch them casting.
Mm-hmm.
So you just want to cast double jig rigs down there is probably the best to cast. You can cast them out,
Mhm.
count it down. You want to count down and just keep changing it until once you get a bite,
Yeah.
then just do that same thing.
Yeah.
Because they'll get in there and school big time.
It's like it looks like a little pond is what it looks like.
Yeah.
And the white bass will get in there real thick too.
Oh, really?
They're a lot of fun in there, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of, have you been doing any hybrid or white bass trips recently?
No, it's been a while.
Yeah. Is that something, because that gets a little crazy here not before long.
Pretty quick, yeah.
Is that, what, in October, early November?
About the third week of October it'll start.
And what causes it? That's just the water temperature's dropping, we're getting the north winds, they're crashing up on these points, and
Heating
that's...
up.
Pushing them baits up there.
Yeah.
feeding them up shallow where you can catch them.
Yeah.
Is like
Same
when
with
the shad
catfish.
start dying, or they're just pushing them around?
They're pushing them around, and it's like the catfish. They move out of that deep water and up shallow. It makes them easier to catch. Is most of it.
Yeah.
And we haven't had a lot of wind lately until today. Then we had a lot of wind. That gets them pushed up shallow.
Yeah. Have you noticed when you've been out, have you seen any schooling activity on any points from white bass or
I
hybrids?
haven't seen any surfacing or anything, but most of them are pretty deep right now. I've seen them out on the humps, so kind of on the edges of the humps, 19 to
Mhm.
15 to 19 foot or so.
Yeah.
I still think the shallow water is going to hurt some of the shallow bite. I don't think there's as much water in these ditches,
Yeah.
and these fish just aren't going to go up them.
Yeah.
They didn't in the spring, and I don't think they will now.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think that's the reason the crappie's not getting up them ditches
Yeah.
up there.
Yeah.
it's just too shallow.
There's
Yeah.
not enough water.
Now we might, we do have that significant cold snap, they might go ahead and push up there, but
I wish they would this week for my term this week. Get in there. They should. I don't think it's gonna happen.
Hopefully they get the memo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because we're still, what, 704.5 roughly? I don't know how long. I mean, I don't know what the maintenance on the dam, how long that project
we don't
is.
get no rain, it don't matter.
Yeah, that's true.
We had a little rain today, a little coming tomorrow, but that's going to be
I don't know how much we had today. I don't think it was a lot.
I think in my boat we had like 4 inches. Well, I was fishing.
You're talking about the lake being so low. Over the weekend, I don't know if anyone. I had a guy call me last week, wanted to just take him on a boat ride from the dam to Sparrowfoot and show him just where the channel is. And this weekend, there's 3 different boats that mess up their lower units driving by the Sparrowfoot Quarry for like G3 tree runners. So make sure you're careful too. There's a random stump out there, I guess.
Yeah.
I've never hit it, but I think me and you did. together
We
once.
just about got her good.
Yeah, but 3 people this weekend got it, and those are people that are on the lake a lot. So
Yeah.
you gotta be careful.
When you say G3,
It's the bend right there. You go past the quarry and you make the big bend. The channel runs along the bank, then you cut diagonally across.
mm-hmm.
And right there where it turns and runs along the edge of the trees on the bank, right on that where you turn.
Yeah.
If you cut that too tight, there's something there.
Yeah.
3 different
it's-
boats did this weekend at Fish Lake.
And it
Quite
don't get.
Yeah, yeah. But G3 doesn't mean mile marker 3 of the Grand.
No,
It's
no
up there.
place they call
It's
it.
in the channel.
Yeah. What's the story on that
Or
again?
just out of channel.
There's a TV show shot there a long time ago. G3 Sportsman.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
Made the place more famous than it already was.
Yeah.
Hated that ever happened.
Yeah. So that's the G3. Tree
G3
row.
Finch Row, and that's probably one more land lake than any tree row ever.
Yeah.
Now, here we go again.
Everybody come G3 fence row on January 31st. We're going to catch a lot of crappie.
2 foot deep right now.
Yeah.
Have to walk through it.
shallow.
Yeah.
Have to walk through it.
Darren, we haven't had a chance to catch up with Darren after he competed in one of the, if not the biggest tournament to come to Truman, and
There was a Bassmasters here,
Like in the 80s.
80s.
yeah, the Toyota Series, and Darren competed. It's a 3-day tournament. You got to make the cut. You got to finish in the top 25 the first 2 days, and then you're fishing as top 25 guys on day 3, and it's cumulative weight. I was hoping you could just kind of tell me a little bit about that experience, what that was like, and kind of how it all played out for you.
It was pretty fun. Of course, I don't enter them because to enter them, they cost more.
Yeah.
That's just what it is. The
Yep.
bigger tournament, the more it costs.
Mm-hmm.
But my birthday was pretty close, and my wife was going to send me on a guided trip up to Minnesota, and I talked her into just letting me fish this instead of going on a guided trip for my birthday. So it was Truman fished tough that weekend. The guys that did well,
This was mid-September, by the way.
mid-September. Mid to end of September through most of October, Truman bass fishing can be tough.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have days you go out and really get them, but most of the time it's pretty tough. Most of the guys that done well in that thing were fishing what we call release fish, which there's nothing wrong with it. It's not illegal. It's,
Yep.
It's totally legal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where most of the better stringers come from. I fished the first day. I was a little concerned about boat traffic on Friday, so Thursday was the first day, and I fished in the Grand,
Mm-hmm.
and I fished from just above Long Shoal all the way to 13 Highway Bridge pretty well. And just kind of spot fished, and I caught fish kind of scattered in 3 to 5 foot of water on a big worm. And I caught one decent one on a jig. And I had like 7 keeper bites and caught them all. Second day, I was concerned about boat traffic. And it's probably a good thing because I know a couple guys that did real well the first day that went back to the Grand and they blanked. And that's one of my pet peeves about Truman. If you fish multiple day tournaments, there's not enough bass, I don't think, to do well multiple days in the same spot. So if you catch them good in the Grand, your best bet is to go to the other end of the lake the next day and catch them there. So I had actually practiced the Grand and the Palmy. And I felt pretty confident I'd go to the Palmy and catch them. Well, I went to the Palmy and I caught a limit and had about 7, 8 keepers. They weren't quite as big, but my better stringers have always come out of the Palmy in late September and October. So I went back the third day. I qualified. I was setting 17th, 18th. I think I was 18th.
Yeah, right in there.
And I went back to the Palmy, and I only had 3. I had 5 keeper bites and boated 3. I lost 2 right at the boat. They weren't big fish, but they were good, solid keepers, which is all I caught the whole time. And I figured they cost us, well, me and Hunter figured it up on the way to Mississippi, and we figured they cost me $1,400 a fish. So
Yeah.
it was tough fishing. The guys that really caught them well out of brush piles that they put in, and was close to marine areas.
Yeah.
And they caught them really well, them brush piles.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. It was fun. It was it's a challenge.
Yeah.
Them guys don't mess around. I mean, it's a different group of fishermen. I mean, most of them guys, that's what they do.
Yep. When you went over to the Palmy, was that big worm stuff as well?
Big worm. I fished a big worm 3 days.
Yeah.
And I was fishing most of my fish come from anywhere from 3 to 4 foot to 8.
And as far as, was it a similar pattern? Like, were you on a flat with just isolated pieces of structure on it? Were you on points?
I fished flat. Every Grand and Palmy, I fished flats with wind. If it had any kind of wind on it, I really fished it hard. And I had a spot in a Palmy I caught keepers off of both days, and I might have made 15 or 20 flips to the same tree before
Oh, really?
I got a bite. Each
Wow.
side, over, up, drug past there, lifted it, hopped it, and then pretty soon you flip in there and bam. It's just places I'd caught a lot of fish before.
So you got
I
it.
actually would see them.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see them bite because the wind was blowing. It's hard to stay on them, but I knew where the tree was. It was under, almost everywhere I caught them was all underwater stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd actually see the fish when I'm pulling up to it. Bass aren't like crappie. They don't like to stay. They sense you're there. Crappie, I think, still sense you're there, but they'll just sit there. Bass won't do that. Bass are more like a big old buck. They'll shift around the other side of the tree on you. When you get 20 feet from them, you'll just watch them right around the tree. So you just flip past the tree.
Yeah.
Usually I'll flip past the tree and drag it by them before I flip right on them. But if I don't get them to bite that way, then I'll flip right where I know it went right by them.
Yeah.
And some of them hit it on the way down. Most of them hit it when it hit the bottom.
Yeah.
The last day, the wind really got the kick in there, and I've seen one point. It's a ledge point. It's not very big. It's real small. It's not much bigger than this table, but it just makes a little bit of a change in depth. And there's just 2 trees, one set about the length of this table apart, and the wind was just crashing on it. And I just pulled over there, and I rarely fish it, but I knew that little ledge was there, and I thought, well, it's wind's on it. You know, it just looks right. And I pulled over there, and I flipped into the first tree. Nothing. I flipped it like 2 or 3 times. Nothing. I didn't even move the boat, and I just flipped into the next tree and first flip in it, and that's where I lost my first one. I thought, you gotta be kidding me. And I mean, the hook didn't even penetrate the worm. You know, they had the weight clamped so tight it didn't penetrate the worm. So I didn't get that fish caught, and I mean, I set the hook on it. It just wasn't hooked. And then I turned around and flipped the same tree that I just flipped like 5 times, and caught one there. I mean, so it's about the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th time I flipped that tree
Yeah.
before it bit. But it was not easy fishing. It was pretty rough
Yeah.
fishing, but
Do you see them with your live scope, or do you look?
I do look, but it's hard to stay on them. That you got to stay so far away from them and make long pitches and flips to them.
Yeah.
The guy that owned it, that's a pretty cool story though.
Yeah, that was. I mean, it was 48 pounds. That I think wasn't it roughly 48 and some change. The guy who won it. It's a really special story, and we've got all the weigh-in videos up at the website. And I even spliced together all of his weigh-ins specifically for a video. His name's Hunter Bogman, and it's really special. I mean, if you're gonna lose, I mean, you can't. It's cool. So he had meningitis when he was 9 months old, is what I've come to learn, and he had his legs amputated, I think right above the knee, if I remember correctly, or
At
right.
least above the knee, maybe a little higher.
Yeah.
Or halfway up anyhow.
And then all of his fingers on his left hand, so where he's basically just got the palm, or even just half of his palm, and then I think his right hand, he had two or
I think he's got 2 fingers and a thumb maybe on his right hand, but they're messed up.
yeah.
And how that guy does that's just amazing. If you ever complain about fishing around me, I'm just gonna laugh at you.
Well, not just that.
Guy to do that. I mean, he travels all over
Mm-hmm.
And he's good, very
the
good.
country.
You know,
He's
But you know, he's a funny guy. I talked to him for just a second, and you know, not very long. He had a big stringer that second day, and he was really excited because it was the biggest tournament I think he'd won.
yeah.
And he pretty well had us all whipped. When he did it. And he said, you know, I learned how to fish this way.
Yeah.
If one of us that happened to us right now, we'd probably give up fishing.
Yeah.
We'd never figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's running across the Great Lakes 2 weeks before this in a great big tournament for 3 days.
He drives the boat,
And he drives the boat,
runs a troll.
runs a trolling motor, has little seat he sets on up front, this far off the deck. Go to YouTube and YouTube Hunter
Fishes, I think.
Fishes, I believe is what it is.
Yeah.
And just watch the videos of him fishing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You couldn't tell he was handicapped at all.
Well, and like you said, let alone complaining about fishing, but just complaining about how tough you got something going on in your life. It's like, it puts it in perspective in a hurry. To see the kind of challenges he goes through on a daily basis just to live his life. And Mark McGuire, is that how you say the tournament director's name?
Mark McGuire, yeah.
He had a really special story. Again, it's on the video. I highly recommend going to watch it. I will summarize it. But basically, Mark is the tournament director of the Toyota Series, and when everyone kind of knew Hunter was going to win. He had a heck of a bag on the 3rd day, the biggest bag of the tournament.
That's when you want it.
And so Mark had him come up across stage. He'd never come across the stage before, so they got him to walk across the stage. But he told a story about the first time he met Hunter Bogman. He had no idea who he was back in 2004, and it was some big tournament, and I don't know the details, but they had all the anglers had to check in the night before or something, and there was like 200 some odd boats, and the tournament director at the time called Mark and was like, "You got everybody checked in?" And he's like, "No, I'm still waiting on this guy. God dang it, it's Hunter Bogman. I don't know who it is." And he's like, "Well, call him, see where he's at." And so he calls up Hunter, and this is, I think, somewhere out east. It's in February. It's raining, so it's cold and miserable, and Mark's all perturbed because I think this was maybe the morning, because he was talking about in the story that he was trying to go to breakfast. He was hungry and was just, God dang it, this guy's holding me up from going to breakfast. And so he calls him. Hunter's like, "I swear, I'm 30 minutes away. I'll be there. And Hunter pulls up, and again, Mark has no idea, never seen him, never heard of him, doesn't know anything about him. And Hunter hops out, and he sees him. And Hunter proceeds to tell him, "Look, I had 2 flat tires on my boat trailer that he changed by himself. And literally on the tournament day, I mean, there's people like crying in the audience as the tournament director was telling this story at the weigh-in, and he's like that moment changed his life, is what he said on stage, and so that was really cool.
Yeah.
I was freaking choking up like watching that stuff.
Very humble guy.
Yeah.
He had fished a 3-day tournament up in Minnesota and didn't qualify for the last day or something, and drove all night back to his hometown in Arkansas, fished a tournament down there and won
Yeah.
the next day.
Yeah.
And the guy loves to fish.
Yeah.
But it was a cool deal.
Yeah, it was cool. One of the other interesting things, one of our members ended up being one of the boaters that was boating around the camera crew. So that's kind of funny because he's like, I got a lot of spots marked. So he was real excited about that. But one of the interesting things, and Brock Rinkemeyer talked about this, if you guys watched some of the videos, this guy that was driving all these camera guys around noticed that there was quite a few teams that were throwing a rig around during the tournament and catching fish, which the A-rig is just not something that has been a go-to thing on Truman because it's dirty water and
When you get tough fishing like it is, there was teams that caught fish in 6 inches of water, plumb out to freaking 20 foot. Well, one of the guys was leading. I think he was catching his fish out 25 foot of water on treetops. Find what you like to do and what you have confidence in it and do it.
Yep.
Don't deviate.
Yep.
Don't think because you see this guy out there fishing in the middle of the lake or this guy fishing in the middle of the channel, that's where you need to go because them are fish he can catch.
Right.
Them probably not fish you can catch.
Right.
You go find fish you like to catch and the way you like to fish for them.
Yep.
One of the guys that did real well last day also, he had the two of the biggest fish in the tournament. He fished 6 inches of water with a buzz bait all day. He said he'd take his boat and trolling motor back there as far as he could until he'd lift his trolling motor until his boat rested on the bottom, drop his trolling motor and then fan cast up there in he said no water. He said I'd bring that thing over top and you just see a big giant flash. He said the fish couldn't even jump there in such shallow water.
Wow.
So there's fish in a lot of places that are really scattered right now. You can really catch them however you want. It's tough, but you get good days you can catch them.
Yep.
Now's when you're going to reverse spring, is what I always say. You're going to reverse the spring, except now you're going to fish all shad colored baits. Nothing else but shad. That's what they're going to feed on. That's what they're going to gorge themselves on. In the spring, you fish mostly crawdad colored stuff. Now it's shad colored, but you're going backwards. And just follow the water temperature the same way you would in the spring. You go from your jerk baits in the spring to your A-rigs to your wiggle warts and your jigs and your spinner baits, and it's going to kind of go the other way.
Yeah.
So you'll kind of start with your spinner baits and
Start slowing it down
and going, wiggle warts and out is a little deeper and into your jerk baits. Just reverse, and then you'll fish jerk baits and A-rigs all winter and then right back going the other way.
Yeah. So, when do you expect? I know you said it's tough through October. So, is it like November when you might have one of those killer days on a spinnerbait, or what's?
Oh,
like,
you can have it any time from the second or third week of October. We just need that cold nights and to not get above 60 during the day. Or in the 60s, not get that 70.
Yeah.
Need them 40, 42 degree nights and get in the 60s, and that water temperature will get down there in that 50 degree water. That's when I think some of the best fishing on the lake, when it's in the 50s.
Yeah.
For any species, for me.
Right. It was tough. I was doing some bass fishing last week on the Pommy. Bluebird skies got up to almost 80, and I thought, we're gonna go catch some. And it was kind of scummy on the water, and it was.
Most of the time, if you're comfortable and enjoying the day, you're not gonna
Yeah,
catch them.
you're right. That was exactly how it turned out, and we threw everything we could, and we fished deep, we fished shallow, and it was not a good day. It was a great day, actually, on the water. I mean, the colors of the trees are starting to turn. It is beautiful. I mean, I really enjoyed it, just sitting there casting, just kind of mindless, and that's part of the problem. I wasn't focused, but it was really enjoyable.
Really getting close to the 1/2 ounce and 3/4 ounce spinner baits and rolling them through treetops on them ledges and stuff that drop, especially this year. This year might be phenomenal because the ledges are so shallow and close to the edge of the channel.
Mm-hmm.
It might be great this year. I don't know. I mean, I've never really fished a lake this low. So
This time of year.
I mean, this time of year, a lot of times they'll sneak up in ditches, you know, but they might hold right there, and you can just slow roll that off them 2 or 3, 4 foot ledges right through over the top of them trees in the channel, and they'll just pile it up.
On your spinner baits, is there a particular type of spinner bait as far as like the willow blades, Colorado blades?
All willow.
Okay.
Now, fish all willow this time of year.
Yeah. Are you doing the big double willows?
Yeah, big double willow leaf, throw, 6s, probably 4s, at least
Yeah.
4s,
Yeah.
and white.
Yeah.
Just everything white.
Yeah.
Chatterbaits work too. I mean, if it's real sunny and calm, you'll probably throw a chatterbait instead of a spinnerbait. If you get any wind, any surface breakup at all, go to the spinnerbait and slow roll it, and you'll catch some fish.
Yeah. You catch any bonus species during the tournament?
They'll tear your stuff up.
Yeah. You got some hybrids or some walleyes?
Oh, during the tournament, I
Yeah.
didn't. No.
Yeah.
I did earlier this year, but
Yeah.
I didn't this one.
Yeah. Because those hybrids will hit those spinner baits.
Oh, they will absolutely annihilate.
Yeah.
Tear them off.
Tear 'em
Yeah.
plumb to pieces.
Yeah.
It will never work right again.
Yeah. I had heard there was some walleye caught, some hybrids, and that kind of deal. But
You'll reel them spinnerbaits by them big old black stumps up there on them flats, and what's the one right across from State Park, kind of just up that big old flat that comes out in the middle of the lake, got them great big stumps out on the end of it,
Pig pen. or
pig
whatever.
pen or whatever they call it. That's well known for
Yeah.
big giant ones. You'll go catch 10, 15 pounders up there.
hmm.
You reel it by a stump, it doesn't water that deep. You can about see the bottom, and it was
Yeah.
big old mean thing will come out.
Yeah.
Won't fit in your live well.
Well, it's a lot of fun. One of the things we were going to talk about that I thought was kind of interesting that's happened in the last couple of weeks, and it just kind of brings to mind some of the stuff we've seen around here over the years. But if you guys had not seen it, I don't know how you couldn't have, because there was like a bazillion different memes about it, and all over the news with this big cheating scandal in the Lake Erie Walleye Tournament Trail. And long suspected, these guys, they'd failed a polygraph a year ago, and they were just bringing in outrageous weights, winning all kinds of stuff. And finally, they came in, and I think if they wouldn't have cheated,
They probably had it won. They got
yes,
cheap.
yes.
Yeah, but
They still
when did they catch them fish?
Well,
I bet they didn't catch them that day.
They were all dead,
But-
which is not unusual up there.
That's
It's a rough
that's
water.
what it, yeah. So regardless, the story is these guys long suspected brought in 5 walleye that looked like 4 to 5 pound walleye. And a lot of people might not think that you can judge a fish just by looking at it, but these guys, all the guys that do it professionally, can look at a fish and within probably a few ounces guess what that fish weighs.
Them weigh-in masters dang sure can. They've seen thousands of them.
Yes. And so when they brought in 5 fish that looked like they were 4 or 5 pounds apiece, weigh 33 pounds, that kind of threw off some red flags. And I don't know if anybody officially complained. I don't know if you can.
Oh, yeah.
In the video they did.
Yeah,
Is
There
that,
was people
is that
hollering.
what prompted him to cut the...
I watched it. Did you watch the
Yes.
interview with him?
Oh, no. I watched him I watched the video he posted, but I haven't seen him be interviewed by
He was
anybody.
interviewed, and I watched the interview video with him.
Mm.
And, it's part of the what do they call him? The tournament master. He's not the tournament master. He'd be the
Director.
mic guy, the guy running the mic.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
I thought he was a tournament director.
He
too.
might have been a tournament director also. But part of his job is to make it exciting.
Yeah.
We see Brian Sowers as one of the best.
Mhm.
Best
The
ever.
crappie master. I mean, he's exciting to listen to.
Mhm.
And he can guess them fish within.
And he does it all the time.
And
Yeah.
does it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I couldn't guess him as close as he does, but he's trying to make it exciting. He said he walked up, they only needed 16 some pounds.
Yeah.
And they were going to win like Angler of the Year and the tournament, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which big money. They won $300,000 a year before and 2 boats. And they'd been accused of this for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And they had failed the lie detector test, but they had passed another one.
Mm.
They requested another one and passed it.
Mm.
So he said he went over there and he looked at the fish and thought, okay, he said it's going to be close. So he was really building up the old scene and everything. And he said they put the first one on there to weigh his big fish, which a lot of times is weighed as a tiebreaker.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he thought 4.5 pounds, and he said it weighed
It was almost 8 pounds.
almost 8 pound fish. He's like, whoa. And he said people started grumbling. He said I could hear them grumbling, and I knew I was going to have to do something. And he said I was still reluctant to do it because them guys are just they don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said, but when they put the rest of the fish in there and they weighed 33 pounds,
Mhm.
he's like, no.
Yeah.
And then once you picked them up, you could tell.
Yeah.
So they walked away with their fish, but how come they come back? Did they call them back?
People are yelling like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't because he said because in the tournament in the weigh-in video you can see he says, "Hey, hold on right there,"
Yeah,
and
hold on right
they stayed right there with him in that basket. So he never walked.
Part of it is they should have let them go on.
Mm-hmm.
Let them wait,
Held the fish, marked them,
get their check.
get their check, and then caught them because then they could have arrested them
Yeah.
and charged them.
Be federal, yeah.
But now, unless they admit to it, which I can't imagine they would.
but how could they not be?
Well, they're busted on this one. I
They
mean,
gotta
They're
be.
busted, but they didn't take any money.
Right,
So
okay, yeah.
but
you filleted some fish.
supposedly
they filleted
there's-
some fish that are probably illegal.
there's some law that hopefully they'll still get charged for attempting to defraud.
You can.
So anyway, but yeah,
They're going to basically not be able to fish a tournament the rest of their life.
yeah.
And they probably the hardest thing will be is if they lose their fishing license forever and their hunting license.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Well-
not going to serve any time.
No, well, it's just so disappointing for all the anglers they've competed against for years because this is clearly what's so crazy. It's just like, did they get so cocky that?
Did you see the video that he posted like the week before? Getting interviewed. He's getting interviewed like the week before that tournament. I don't know. Did you see
Yeah,
it?
I seen
He's
it.
sitting there telling me like, if I don't win this thing, I'm terrible. Like I know I'm gonna win.
Yeah.
I'm not
I've got
good.
it in the
I know
bag.
I'm
Yeah.
not good.
He looked at the camera and said, winners win.
Yeah.
And he turned his head.
You
Really?
can tell
They
he's
already
like,
knew he had won.
cocky.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that means me in that same tournament, I'm not fishing for first.
yeah,
I'm fishing for 2nd.
Mhm.
You know? And that's a big drop from first place to second place in any tournament.
yeah. It's crazy. I mean, and it's just obviously the unethical, horrible nature of just cheating, but just the treatment of the fish, shoving freaking weights down their gullet.
Liars.
And I guess they did the walleye fillets was to kind of try to disguise.
I'm gonna say
Keep
that.
it mushy.
I'm gonna say they put them weights, and I'm no cheater.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say they put the weights in that
Yeah.
fillet and shoved it in, so then it didn't look. You didn't see marbles. in
right.
it. You know,
Right.
That's what I'm figuring. But didn't one of them have a pair of pliers in them?
Yeah, yeah,
They had a pair of pliers.
Must have. Yeah, I think it did. I think it must have got away from them.
yeah.
See, in the walleye circuit, I do know in the
I
walleye
was gonna put an
circuit,
anvil in.
Yeah, because one of the memes was like lead weight tacos, and it had like a
Oh, yeah.
fried pair of pliers as well.
I do know in the walleye circuit because I fished a PWT Professional Walleye Trail at Stockton. That's all them guys come down here. All the big wheels. They had a big super tournament down here, and I fished it as a non-boater, as an amateur, back in the '90s. And anything that comes is in your live well after you take your fish out is part of your weight. So you can feed, like if that fish pukes up a big old shad or brim, you stick it right back down his throat. You can stick it down his throat or you can put it in the basket.
Yeah,
So they can do that. And this guy, I was with, he just stuck it down, watered up, stuck it down his throat, and took a deal and shoved her down in there. Said, here, eat this.
Maybe
again."
them fish would need some weights or
They
something.
might need some weights on them, but
I don't.
oh, that they got extremely greedy. I don't
Yeah.
know what they were thinking.
Yeah, because if they hadn't have gotten so greedy and cocky, they probably could have kept.
They got
pulling-
away with it for a year. I
Yeah.
guarantee it.
Yeah,
They could have got away from this tournament even. I mean, you need 16 pounds, you weigh 33.
yeah,
Come on.
Over double.
yeah.
At least make it a little more convincing.
I don't know. It's crazy.
But don't just think it happens up there.
Yeah.
We've had
Oh.
multiple cases here just on Truman.
Yeah. How,
It
any,
happens everywhere. It's big money.
Yep.
And some people are just going to find a way to do it.
has there been anything that's happened recently on Truman, or just it's been several years?
Last one I knew, I was probably 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah,
Been a while.
but we've seen it on bass and crappie.
Yep.
And there's one we were talking about earlier, and we don't have to name the name, but it was a case where he was going to a different lake. They weren't. You could launch anywhere, and no one was monitoring him, and he was going to different impoundments or fishing strip pits or something. Was that the story or
Different.
Different lakes.
different lakes?
Yeah, and then because it's dry, it's trailered way,
Mm-hmm.
so they trailer back.
Yeah.
But they had, they had pictures of him at the.
They video
They
it.
videoed
Putting his
him.
boat in, taking his boat out, fishing.
Yeah.
That guy's tie strings.
Mm.
And he's won a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of trophies.
Yeah. But that got handled and dealt with.
It did, but it still don't take back
Right.
the
All the
guys
years
that won second to him.
Yeah.
You
for the
know,
guys one place out of the money.
Yeah.
Guys
It's
win the
just
championship.
It has a lot of implications.
Yeah.
I mean, the other anglers that are competing lose confidence in the integrity of it. I mean, your sponsors that are contributing dollars have got to be second guessing. Do we keep
He had-
giving this tournament?
that dude had Ranger. He had
Yeah,
everybody.
sponsor.
Yeah.
And what it does, it's going to kill the rest of us that have
Yeah.
sponsors. Sponsors will quit sponsoring.
They will, and they should.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
really.
they're not going to let their name get.
Yeah.
They've already talking about passing a law now that if you have a name on your coat or jacket or whatever that you haven't been approved, like any of the shirts, like me and Hunter have our tournament shirts,
Mm-hmm.
all them people on there have been approved.
Mm-hmm.
I had to contact each one of them and get approval.
Right.
If you're not approved, then
Well, yeah, because there's all these guys, just even local tournaments that have like Pro's Choice Marine or Angler Sport Marine that they're not sponsored. They just, it's an option when you go to buy the jersey, you can have the logo put on.
yeah, and a lot of that'll stop.
Yeah.
So do you think a lot of these guys cheat for money or for like an ego?
Money.
Money.
Yeah.
And like them guys that in the walleye tournament, they probably, they was a nobody. They started win. Then Ranger boats and all the other guys said, "Man, we got to get on board with this team." And so they reach out and they sponsor them. And now then all them guys say, "No more. Bad for us."
Yeah. It's a crazy ordeal. Hopefully they get the book thrown at them, but
They won't.
Because there's really nothing. I mean, there's really nothing they can do to them.
They should have went across that stage, got their check,
But they didn't go across the stage. They weighed in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they
didn't get the
They didn't
check.
get their check.
to get their
But
check.
the
They
way I
called them
see
back.
it, but I guess the law is different. But if you waited your fishing, you're meaning to get the check. Is what I'm on.
You got to receive that check in your hand. We've had it.
They should have let them wait because they would have got the check. I'm sure.
Oh, they'd have took
Oh
it.
yeah, they took it.
They should have waited.
I can't believe that they just didn't get the ever living crap beat out of them.
Well, the tournament director on
Yes.
that video tells them, "Do not touch anyone, or
And he
you
was
will be
very
kicked
adamant.
out of my circuit."
Mhm.
Also, because he can't do that. I mean,
Is
he's technically half responsible
right.
for everybody there.
I'm gonna say if it had been like a bass trail, they would have even anyway. You know what I'm saying? I would think.
Well, now that people know that he actually failed a lie detector test before,
Mm-hmm.
there's probably going to be some heat brought on them tournament circuits for letting them fish.
Yeah.
I know the ones around here, or that used to fish around here, we all knew that were doing that and actually had been caught in other states and stuff like that. I mean, they're just an uproar about it until the tournaments finally say no.
Yeah. Is the Toyota Series one that does a polygraph?
Yeah, every tournament is a polygraph
Mm-hmm.
as long as you request it.
Got it.
So if Richard finished first and I felt he might have done something shaky, I mean, even not put his life jacket on when he was running his motor,
Yeah.
and I finished second, I'll pay the $50 to see if he fails the polygraph. Maybe I'll win 20 grand,
Mm-hmm.
and he'll get booted. It's not being mean. It's just the rules.
What are some? Have you guys had to take polygraphs?
Yeah.
I've taken a bunch of them.
So
There's-
what?
There's no way that you cannot pass the polygraph test.
So polygraphs aren't even admissible in court, from what I
So
understand.
I do them, and that's what happened
Yep.
to these guys.
So let me ask you this: when you're going to do the break it down to me, what it's like. I mean, are you nervous at all? What kind of questions are they asking?
Well, I'll tell you, the first one I had to do was a Woods and Waters event out of Bucksall. And that was the old style. The new ones now are real simple.
Stupid.
But they're
Hooked the phone.
the old style.
You
I
got
was
you're
nervous.
hooked up all over.
I mean, I had stuff on me and on my chest and on my fingers.
Fingers,
And
yeah.
I was like, whoa, is this dude going to hit a button and I'm quivering? But, I mean, it was just the old needle on the paper. And, I mean, he'd tell you, I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to lie. Or at first he'd ask a couple questions. I want you to tell the truth. And you'd see the needle just kind of do its little thing. And he'd say, now I want you to answer it with a lie. So I mean, you even knew you was lying.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that freaking needle like blowed out the top of the screen. There's no doubt.
It just
Wham!
Yeah.
Boom. I mean, there's no doubt. And he just asked you questions, and I mean, I was a nervous wreck. I was a kid. And these new ones now, they just hook a little deal right here, and it's more
It's a voice.
voice and muscle
It's
something.
stupid.
Fluctuation of
Some of
voice.
them's over the phone.
Yeah.
We
They
won
do it on their own.
second or third in the Nationals 3 years ago, whatever. And it was over the phone. How do I know, for one, that anybody's on the other end of that phone? Even he might just be over there talking, eating a cheeseburger. I
right,
don't know.
right.
I'm not cheated, but
This
I
guy
don't know
sounds
that.
shady.
Yeah,
Oh, no crap.
yeah.
But I mean, I've been wired up like that. I've had all kinds of them. Gary, don't take him. Gary's an older guy. And he gets nervous, but
My partner would take it.
oh, I don't. I mean, just go in there and don't even think about what you're doing.
Right.
I promise you, I could rob a bank tonight and take a lie detector test tomorrow. Well, I'm telling you, there's no way you can't pass it.
Yeah.
And if you don't pass it, you can't use it in court.
Yeah.
So why take a test?
So what are they asking you?
Very vague questions.
They asked me the first one I took for bass. Me and my partner had won Woods and Waters or something, big bass tournament, and so I'm in there all wired up, the crap around me, and they're asking me the kid's age.
No
Ages.
wonder you got bad language.
No, I get bad language. and I I just told him Hunter's this age and Sean's this age, and they just simple
He didn't
question.
know.
Did you
Yeah.
cheat?
He's like, oh shit,
That's where I'm going.
they
with it.
caught me.
And I told him wrong. But in my mind, I told him right. You don't think about what
Right.
you're. Just answer the question. Don't overthink it.
Yeah.
You probably will or fail it.
So
Tell
vague.
us people how to cheat in these tournaments.
Well, it's just vague. They asked questions like
What'd you
that.
catch them on?
Did you have
No,
your life jacket?
no, they don't. Did you fall? Did you wear your life jacket?
Okay.
Did you catch these fish on this lake?
Yeah.
Did you wear
Did
your
you catch
kill
these
switch?
fish? Did you catch these fish in the way the tournament rules say? I mean,
It's stupid.
and that's about all the questions like that. The
Yeah.
rest of it is, did you wear your life jacket? Did you do this? Did blah blah blah? What's your favorite color? I mean, they're really some of them. You're like, what's that got to do with fishing?
Yeah.
So you're really thinking about mowing the yard or going home and eating supper, and you're not even thinking about what they're asking.
Yeah.
So you're not changing nothing.
Trying to think about how to hide that money from your wife.
And that's what I've been thinking.
So I guess what's the answer then? If these polygraphs are kind of silly, what's a solution to prevent something like this walleye deal from happening?
There isn't one.
I think the only way that you'd cure it is take the top 3 teams' fish and dissect them.
Yeah.
That's the only way you're going to cure it. Because
But-
there's other ways
I mean,
besides.
like you're talking about, like, you can pass a lie detector test. You could beat people on the side like to cheat and get fish from other, like, bigger fish.
Well, you can do
can't
that.
ever stop cheating. You can't.
You're not going to. But like these guys,
Unless you have.
But my thing is when they see smoke, follow up with it. Don't think, they're not. No.
Yeah.
If you even have one person, and I promise you, if you go and win a bunch of tournaments, somebody's going to say you're doing something shady. That's just the way it's always been. I've seen people that have won tournaments their whole life, but people are like, I got won 10 freaking tournaments this year. Somebody's going to say, he's probably doing something shady. Some guys are just good fishermen. But if these tournament directors, I would like to see them get a lot more stingy, especially like Anglers and Axles, $27,000.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody is sitting at home right now. How can I get $27,000? I can do something good with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just too much money, and somebody's just looking for an easy way to get around it.
Yeah.
Lake the Ozarks is probably one of the easiest places to do it, I would think. You got all them
All those
boat
docks,
docks,
yeah.
all them cages on the sides of the docks where them people leave crappie that they
Mhm.
caught, and they go dipping at them when they want to mess.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard of tons of people getting caught down there, pulling up somebody's dock and getting them right out of their basket they put them in.
Yeah.
On a 2-day deal, you could put somebody in the boat with the top 10, say,
Yeah.
and that would help. But it's hard to find them 10 people that want to ride around
Right.
with a Yahoo all day.
Right.
The bigger tournaments
Yeah.
like Toyota, you
Kids
have
make a drink beer.
you have camera boats and stuff with
Yeah.
the top guys, so it'll be a lot rougher on them.
Yeah.
They're pretty well with them most of the time. Crappie Masters, they always had camera boats with the top 10, wasn't it?
Mhm.
Or you had GoPros.
Yeah.
They make it a little tougher there, and I'd like to see some of these other tournaments do that too.
Yeah.
You take even like Joe Bass. You know, it pays like $3,000 or $4,000 to win first, but then you throw your boat incentive in there. Next thing you know, you're winning $11,000-12,000. That's not bad for a day.
Yeah.
And he has 30 tournaments a year.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of 3,000 or 4,000 per a day for a tournament is pretty good money for some people.
It makes me wonder on the kayak scene because that is a really like gentleman's code there. Now they do have, you know, these apps that track your location, and you got this little code on your hand. So when you have to hold your hand a specific way when you're holding that fish on the bump board so that you can see that it was that from that day. But it just, I don't know. I kind of wonder on the kayak side of things because they're trailering everywhere type of deal. But I haven't heard of anything going on in the kayak world on that front. So they might have something figured out with the app tracking the location. That maybe that's the easy fix for at least for the tournaments that you have to trailer to wherever you want. If there's an app that you can log into and it's tracking your location the whole time, that's
Well,
pretty
you know, like crappie masters, they have everybody meet that morning at one spot and check your live
Check
wells
your
at
live
5 o'clock in the morning. Then everybody
Drive
takes
off.
off driving. I'm like, well, that did a lot of good.
Yeah.
If they're going to cheat, they're not going to be on
Yeah.
live wells.
They're not going to be in their live well.
Right.
They're not that. Now, them two guys might have. They might have put them in their live well. They're pretty gullible.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
But no, it's going to be impossible. It's just like anything.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just some people are just dishonest.
yeah.
Money involved, they're going to cheat.
Yeah.
You just don't think about it and you go out and enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. It'll be interesting. We'll follow up, and if anything happens, I'm sure it'll take forever to go through if they do prosecute them. But we'll stay up on it, and we'll keep you guys updated as we learn more. It'll be interesting. So, but with that, I think we've covered a lot of topics. We've covered all the species of the lake. Kind of talked about what they have been doing, what they're going to be doing. We'll be back again mid-November. We'll all probably be deer hunting. The fishing reports might dwindle a little bit the first 15 days of November, but we'll still have them coming to you for sure. But a lot of us will be out in the deer woods, I do believe. But what I'm going to try to do is some rut reports on day by day, because I know I'll be out in the woods
Yep.
every day.
Hunter Bill gives some duck reports. Bill,
Yeah.
duck hunter.
Yeah,
Well,
get
Dylan's
some
a deer
water.
hunter too.
Get some water.
Yeah. Yeah.
Need some water.
Yeah, we big time. And
There's
we're
a feed out there for him now.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're getting rain tomorrow too, aren't we? I don't know how much.
Another-
We need like
Another
days
10.
and days and days.
6 inches.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be rough.
It's gonna be rough.
Yeah. But whoever does have the water,
There and kill.
yeah.
My
Yeah.
duck lake looks great. If anybody wants to go dump some water in it, everybody take their boat and just empty a live well out.
Be quite a few trips. But with that, guys, I think we are done with today's edition. We'll be back in early to mid-November for our next one. Of course, if you guys have any questions at all that you want us to cover, shoot those in, email us, comment on the Facebook page, send us a message. We'll get to it as much as we possibly can in these videos and the fishing reports, and we'll keep everything coming at you. Want to say thank you again to all of these guys, Darren Langford, Richard Bowling, Jordan Lear, Dylan Stocking, Hunter Bowling. If you go on to TrumanLakeFishingIntel.com, scroll down the home page, and you see a tab over on the right side that says Experts. Click that, and all these guys' bio information is there, contact information on how to book trips with them, and get out there to go catch some fish of your own and learn from the very best on the lake. All the guides that contribute fishing reports to Truman Lake Fishing Intel are up there, so you'll be able to find all their information. And then last but not least, just want to say thank you again to Anglers Port Marine and Nini's Italian Steakhouse for helping to make these videos possible as well. And with that, until next time, we will catch you guys on the next one.